While growing up, we all had a friend hell-bent on breaking down every rule and norms of society. This is a part of growing up. The child inside them does not know the complex social structure surrounding any immediate problem. So they believe that the problem can be solved with a whip. When these kids join college, they are absorbed by the leftist ecosystem whose ideological foundation is instant gratification. These people then go on to chant slogans for the poor, underprivileged, working class. By doing so, they get power. Then they realize that no matter what you do in your life, just keep speaking for the working class and you will keep getting power. Within no time, they become part of the aristocracy against which they were fighting in the first place. But who cares? They are in a position to change any narrative against them. By the time these professors, economists, politicians, and many others get old, their prognosis takes a 180-degree flip. Now they can be found preaching exactly opposite of what they were known for. And the best part is that no one even bats an eye. Hi and welcome to TFIPost. I'm your host Apurva. If you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe and press the bell icon to get all the latest updates. And if you're watching us on Facebook, do like, share and subscribe to the page. Let's begin with the video report. Recently, Dr. Raghuram Rajan delivered a lecture on globalization and climate change. Akin to the mood of the environment, Rajan advocated for minimizing the impact of economic growth on climate. According to the former RBI governor, if governments focus on service-led growth, then it would have a positive impact on the climate. Rajan's economic justification behind advocacy of service-led growth is that he believes it would help reduce inequality in industrial economies. Dr. Rajan believes that unlike manufacturing products, services do not have any weight, which is the reason why it can reduce climate catastrophe. He is so firm on his opinion that the man did not even differentiate between the respective needs of industrial and emerging market economies. In other words, there is no difference between the needs of an industrialized Germany and an underachiever India. Cautioning that India's manufacturing-led growth will be harmful for the world, Rajan said, and I quote, "Weightless services also consume little energy on the way to the final consumer, unlike manufactured goods. Export-led services growth will be much less environmentally harmful. The world cannot afford India to follow China's path, even if it were open to it." Explaining his points, Rajan advocated for the spread of production of services across the country. Up until now, India and other countries, which include developed ones like the US, Canada, have traditionally relied on expansion of manufacturing to the hinterland and not services. Though in later phase of industrialization, services have also expanded, but that was only after those countries were termed as developed countries. It is pertinent to note that developed countries here do not refer to those countries whose GDP numbers are high. The true mark of a developed economy is high per capita income and good human development indices. This is why, despite India pushing back, the UK on the economic table is not enough for declaring it as a developed country. Moving on, Rajan's failure to explicitly outline the difference between needs of developed and emerging market economies is the reason why his prognosis is impractical. Let us understand it through studying the economic history of countries which have seen a rapid rise in their GDP. One of them is the US, a highly developed one having high per capita income with nearly $62,000 per capita income. The other one is rapidly developing but still an underachiever China with barely $11,800 per capita income. First, we will look at how the manufacturing sector of the US shaped its economic history. After the end of the Civil War, a severe recession had gripped the US economy. Industries and government decided to resurrect the economy by focusing on the manufacturing sector. Mines and lumber, including that of gold and silver, became a new source of capital for investment. The logistics sector, the backbone of manufacturing, witnessed a significant jump in its resources, with railroads mileage increasing to about 190,000 miles from 93,262 miles in 1880. Resultantly, aggregate annual value of all manufactured goods increased from about $5.4 billion in 1879 to $13 billion in 1899. The rapid transformation was the reason behind rapid technological investigation during 2 decades. By 1900s, the US had surpassed the British, its former masters in producing iron and steel. The boat helped in the invention of telephone, typewriter, linotype, phonograph, electric light, cash register, air brake, refrigerator, car, among other things. The fact that the US was wealthy enough to contribute in World War I is directly attributable to the government's emphasis on manufacturing. Within a span of 2 to 3 decades, the US went on from becoming a recession-hit economy to a fully industrialized and developed one. For the next 40 years, manufacturing continued to be the backbone of the US economy as it took shape as a developed country. However, after the 1940s, the time when the US hegemony got confirmed, the share of manufacturing has been constant in the American GDP. A minor spike was observed in post-World War II as the jobs in the sector helped the US to rebuild its middle class. The high rate of job creation is the reason why manufacturing is still relevant in the US. Though the sector's contribution to the GDP remains in the range of 11 to 13%, it constantly employs nearly 20% of the workforce. You see, even after services became the backbone of the GDP, manufacturing continued to be one of the pillars of job creation in the United States. Situations in China is a bit different, as it is relying on manufacturing in 2022 as well. When Deng Xiaoping introduced a bit of liberalization, Chinese knew nothing other than toiling like a donkey on orders. That means that even if they wanted, CCP could not get people on board for anything else than agriculture and manufacturing. Now, agriculture was already mired by disguised employment. China decided to focus on manufacturing. For the next 3.5 decades, China went on to manufacture rail, cars and locomotives, ships and aircraft, consumer products including footwear, toys, iron and steel, aluminum machinery, armaments, textiles and apparels, petroleum, cement, chemical fertilizers, food processing and automobiles. The peak of China's industry arrived between 2011 and 2013, when it consumed more cement in 2 years than the whole of the US consumed in 100 years of the 20th century. On the back of its sheer manufacturing capacity, China lifted 80 crore out of poverty in 4 decades. Manufacturing share in job creation was a prime example behind it. Despite that, low per capita income does not allow experts to categorize China in developed economies, though China has been trying to move away from manufacturing-led growth. Share of manufacturing in China's GDP has come down from 45.5% in 2010 to 38% in 2019. Its effects are more visible than ever since civil unrest has been quite rampant in China during the last few years. It is clear that while transitioning from developing to developed world, manufacturing is the rath on which an economy should ride. Manufacturing creates jobs, which in turn creates demand for services, ultimately leading to growth of the services sector. Those countries which are not following this formula are seeing a crisis of unprecedented standard. Our neighbor Nepal is the best example of it. Nepalese did not use huge remittances to start their own businesses. Instead, it led to more demand for luxury items and places like hotels and resorts, among others. All these things come under the service sector. Interestingly, Nepal's service sector has witnessed an increase in the last few years, but it has come off on a hollow base. Unlike developed economies, Nepal's service sector is not built on the back of a strong manufacturing sector. Without manufacturing growth being strong, the service sector and henceforth economy of Nepal is collapsing simply because it does not have many products to consume and keep the economy floating. We are lucky to not suffer setbacks like those of Nepalese, as up until now, our growth is also mainly led by the service sector. But it can't go on forever, and the Modi government knows it. That is why initiatives such as Atmanirbhar Bharat, Make in India, Stand Up India, Startup India and PLI schemes, among others, are there. The Modi government wants to increase manufacturing share in GDP to at least 25%. It is the only solution to the problem of unemployment, which economists like Raghuram Rajan have raised their concerns for. But now, Rajan seems to be more worried about the impact on climate change than unemployment. There is a reason to worry, but it does not mean that a country like India compromises with its ambitions. Developed economies like that of the US can do that, but Rajan won't ask them. Because historically, it has always been easier to suppress India's interest in Ivy Leagues.